Hey guys, it's Biggs. I'm down in... Where am I? I'm not in Strongsville yet.
No, you're in Orwell, Ohio.
Orwell, Ohio. It's very fancy here.
Yes, literally a one-stoplight town. Not to be confused with Orville. This is Orwell.
And I'm sitting here with one of my best friends, Mr. Jonathan Strazinsky. Jonathan Strazinsky is known everywhere he goes for the thing right behind us. That's the 1,200-ish gallon tank.
Yeah, it's technically 1,205.
Still?
Yeah, that's still holding water.
What about the basement? Is that not included anymore? Was it more before?
It used to be 1,500 gallons.
All right, so we got a 1,205 gallon tank behind us. That's gone through a lot of changes over the years. I'm really happy to see it's got water in it this time. That's cool. It's a nice touch.
Exciting, isn't it?
Having an aquarium with water in it is really, really cool, I think.
Is.
You know, because then you can put the fish in it.
Right.
It keeps it better that way.
Well, you are my savior.
Jonathan has had some issues with the tank over the years of it leaking and stuff like that for random reasons and stuff. And when you're building tanks, sometimes that thing happens. But this tank's an old tank. It's not 5-6 years old. This tank's
13 years old?
Yeah, 13 years old. It's gone through a lot of changes, a lot of different fish. You used to do a pile of big fish. You used to actually run a rescue, did you not?
I was the first 501c3 approved fish rescue in the country.
Is that good?
I guess.
Get you lots of accolades.
No.
So much respect from the peers.
Right, well, yeah. Started it in the middle of a recession.
Bankrolled the whole fish room off of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Started in the middle of a recession. No one had money to donate, and social media hadn't really taken off yet. So I was on forums, and that was the only way that I could get the word out.
And that's when you did everything on the forum about the building of this monster behind us, right?
Yeah, Cichlid Dash Forum. It's like a 160-page thread. I had a child born during the construction of the tank. That's in that thread.
Yeah. They didn't pull their weight, did they? They didn't help out at that stage.
No.
No, they just sponged off mom and dad.
Yeah.
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 This is Roxanne. It's my girlfriend when I'm away from town. She always waits for me. So, Jonathan's going to give us a tour of his 1,200-gallon tank.
It's right there. What to say, a 1,200-gallon tank, I'm a statistics kind of guy, so it's 14 feet long, left to right. The first 8 feet, starting from where I'm sitting, is 6 foot front to back. The last 6 feet is 3 foot front to back. Overall total depth of the water is 30 inches. There's a 195-gallon box that acts as a settling chamber and where the heating system is, and part of the filter. There is a half a ton of sand in the tank. It is large grain sand, about the size of kosher salt. This way fish can sift through it, but it doesn't get in the water column and clog the filtration system. Large chunks of wood in there, boulders. There's about 500 pounds of boulders, and plastic plants, simply because there's Uaru in the tank, and they'll even eat the plastic plants if given the chance.
Thriving discus community.
Yes, thriving discus community.
The one token discus.
Last of the Mohicans there. He's actually kind of a tough guy when the tank gets fed, which is through here, through that little hatch. He's the first one there. And he'll plow right through 12-inch fish to get his share. So
now, the background in this tank looks a little bit different. What is in the background? Is it a painted texture finish, or?
No, that background is from Universal Rocks and Jason Wilson.
Okay.
Who Jason Wilson also does Northfin USA. But I called him and I needed a custom background. It's basically rubber with what looks like rock glued to it.
Yeah, it's like a resin, a flexible
it's like
resin
a
or
flexible
something.
resin. It is 27 feet long by 32 inches tall. And in that 27 feet, the pattern repeats once and you can't find it. It took almost an hour of staring at it fully laid out to find the repeat in the pattern.
The world's worst puzzle.
Right, yeah. So, and it gives it that professional or zoo or aquarium look. I'm very happy with it. With the lighting that's in the tank, it's very dimly lit. This is supposed to be a Blackwater setup. You can't really see the background until you get close.
Yeah.
And when you see it, it's awesome.
And the Geophagus and all the weird cats and stuff like that are forever sifting in there. So there's always a fair bit of kind of sediment in the water column.
Right. And with the plecos that rasp on the wood, there's just a constant supply of reprocessed lumber.
Yeah, I have a couple of those backgrounds in a couple of my tanks at home, and the first time I got one of it, it was a fair expense, but the minute I put it in the tank, I'm like, okay, I'm sold. I get it now.
Yeah, I paid more for that background than I paid for my first car. But it's worth every penny. They are awesome.
Right.
And it took about 10 tubes of silicone to glue it to the back wall.
Yeah, mine came with magnets.
Right.
But you can't put this
I
on.
don't have that option here. I don't have a glass wall in the back.
Now, did you build the tank to fit the space?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Behind that column there is a support column. So that was my end point for the tank. It was actually designed by... The fish room wall was done first. And when you buy carpet, it comes 12 foot wide. I didn't want any seams.
Okay.
So we have 12 foot of living space, and that's what defined where the tank went.
Okay. So the tank is all in its enclosed, its own little room, which we'll show you guys momentarily. It's all self-venting. You control humidity, I believe, that way and stuff. All the filtration and all the life support system for that are all inside. And you also have an extremely unique and probably without a doubt the best heating system I've ever encountered for heating a tank of this size.
It's incredibly efficient.
Yeah. So let's take a peek at that.
The heating system is radiant heat, and if you're familiar with radiant heat, it can be done with electrical or it can be done with water. Now think about a normal aquarium heater. It is literally radiant heat. There's heat coils in a tube and it radiates heat off. So picture hot water going through that tube instead of electrically charged diodes that, or whatever they are, that heat the water. So what we have...
So that one uses no electricity whatsoever.
This one uses no electricity whatsoever. I have natural gas in the house, and I have a natural gas water heater for the house. Okay? So all I did, and we'll go through the whole system, is tap into a hot water line. I put a T in and a valve. And the hot water line comes in, goes in here. Check this out. I can actually get out of the way. Comes into the room and drops down into this 195 gallon, 190 gallon box. And inside here, which you're not going to be able to see, is 100 feet of PEX.
And this is, I know that to everybody else, this just looks like a plywood box, but this is actually an aquarium, or built like an aquarium.
It's a filter. So
it's fully epoxy coated on the inside.
Right.
Yeah.
Interseal 670HS is the product that I used actually to...
The epoxy.
The epoxy that I used for the tank and for this. But so the filter comes in here, so there's always water in here. It's always full. It's full to about here.
That acts as an extra reservoir, so you have a 1,200 gallon tank, but you also have how many other...
200 gallons, basically.
Yeah.
So it's 1,400 gallons in the system, but I don't include this in the size of the tank.
Yeah.
To me, the filter isn't part of the tank. So the red PEX that you see here comes down into this box, and 100 feet is coiled up, and then it comes back out. Okay. So follow that again. Starts from a regular hot water line in your house anywhere, comes in, coils up, and then comes back out. Okay, and when it comes out, it comes into here. Water is traveling this way. You can see the arrow on the Grundfos recirculating pump. That's all it is a recirculating pump. It's cast. So from here, it goes down and feeds into the water heater. So just to retrace our steps, hot water line, coils, back into the water heater. So the water that's in the water heater is not in the aquarium. It's only in the PEX.
It's a closed loop
It's
circuit.
a closed loop circuit, and all I've effectively done is make my 55-gallon water heater larger.
Yep.
Okay. In the corner is the thermostat. And when the aquarium calls for it, when it calls for heat,
So that thermostat has a probe that's in your
thermostat has a probe. Actually, you can see it. It's right here. This wire drops down into one of these.
Yeah.
And when the aquarium calls for it, this will actually turn on the Grundfos recirculating pump, which will then draw water out of the water line, circulate through all the coils, and then right back into the water heater.
Yep.
That's all it does. And when it doesn't need it anymore, it shuts the Grundfos pump off.
So I bet I'm also assuming then, and I'm not a plumber, but by doing this system, hot water tanks often fail because they get a lot of sediment and stuff building up. By you going back in through the bottom, which is used to be the safety valve,
Right.
did you install another safety valve? So
Yes.
pressure relief. So you have another way of getting water out of the system if you ever had to.
Right.
But this way, you're also going to be agitating and stirring up the bottom of that tank all the time. So you're probably never
Right.
going to have any sediment.
I would love
A lot less.
I would love to say that's true, but we have basically solid rock for water
Yeah.
in Orwell.
Yeah.
So I do get sediment, but it never has a chance to fully block anything up
Yeah. It's always
because it's always recirculating.
yeah. It's almost like a bioactive filter inside there. It's always moving.
Right.
Yeah.
So essentially, I can keep this tank at 83 degrees because I have South American fish in there that like it nice and warm, with the expense that it costs to run your regular water heater in your house.
Yeah.
So in the summer, my gas bill is about $13 a month. When I put this system in, my gas bill is about $13 a month.
Yeah.
It literally cost me nothing to heat this tank. If I were to try to heat this tank with some sort of electricity, heating the room, or
That'd cost you $13 a month to do that alone.
no, it would probably cost me $25 or $30 a month.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. This room is 6 foot by 14 foot.
Yeah.
That is a large area, and water loses 3 degrees from ambient temperature around it.
Yeah.
So I'd have to keep it 86 in this room to keep the tank at 83.
Yeah.
That's just insane.
The water would be dripping off the walls. You're thinking there.
It would. So that's another thing. There is, if you can see past the fish trap up there, that is a $16 Brown exhaust fan for a bathroom that runs straight outside, so it constantly takes the moisture out of the room. There's no moisture on the ceiling.
And it just runs 24/7.
24/7. The one that's behind it, I don't know if you can
Yep.
see it, is the old one that lasted 10 years, running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, the last big fish room that I had in my old place, we had a big, huge 400 CFM exhaust fan, but I wired it to a humidistat, so I made sure the room was never more than 50%. And that worked really, really well too. Energy costs in Canada are decidedly more.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what's in the filters? You basically just have a couple of Rubbermaid
I
tubs.
can actually show you what's in the filters. These are Rubbermaid tubs. The water comes from the tank. Okay.
This
You
is
can see it.
DIY at its finest.
You can see how hard the water is.
Yeah.
Water comes from the tank, and what I have in here is port foam from Swiss Tropicals.
Yep.
And under the port foam are bio balls.
Can't really see them.
Can't really see them.
It's just dark, but they are bio balls. Trust me, they're there.
Here, you want some light? There's the bio balls.
Yep.
Anytime I can find bio balls, I just throw them in there. And most of you people who are hardcore aquarists, you probably find bio balls in your yard. So then the water drops down into the settling chamber where the heat coils are.
Yep.
And gets pumped back out into the tank.
Now, what do you do for maintenance? For, say, water changes? Because that's about the only thing that you haven't addressed.
Okay, water changes are a constant thing. There's a drip that comes in the tank. I have water plumbed in here. Goes through a charcoal filter to attempt to get rid of the chlorine out of the water, which if you talk to a chemist, it's not going to remove the chlorine. And goes to that tiny little tub that's underneath the fish trap that has a pillowcase full of peat moss in it.
Not specifically because of the type of fish that you currently have in the tank.
Correct. So the water cycles through the peat moss and then drips into the tank. There's a hole drilled in the cover and water drips constantly. It changes about 50% of the water a week.
Yep.
So you can actually see the line right here. And
Yep.
it runs into the quill. Now,
Yeah, my automatic
Where's
water
that?
change system that I used to have before, it ran, and I use straight chlorinated water. We don't have chloramine though.
Right.
Chloramine is a challenge. Chloramine has to use a chemical to break that bond, but
we don't
chlorine will
have
dissipate.
chloramine in our water either.
So yeah, the small amount that be going in on a daily basis is a very small amount, and it'll dissipate quickly.
So where does the water go, the excess water? At the top of the box, at the other end, there's a bulkhead that's hooked into plumbing that goes under the tank into the floor drain. So in my opinion, the dirty water that's in the settling chamber can easily get taken out.
Yep.
So fresh water goes in the tank, water from the filter goes down the drain.
Now this system that you're running, I know the tank's gone through a lot of evolutions over the years and stuff like that, but this one has been running for 2 years now, I believe, right? And it's been
this
pretty much
system?
trouble-free.
This system has been running, actually it's a little bit longer than 2 years. The system's been, this exact system, heating, filtration, may have been a different container,
Okay.
has been since the inception of the tank.
Yeah.
But I had the plywood, I built the box, I wanted a platform to be able to walk up and step into the tank if I had to, whereas before I had a large bin in here that I had to walk past, bring a ladder in if
Yeah.
I needed to get in the tank. So this was specifically designed with the space that I had to use, and it just so happened that these Rubbermaid containers were the perfect width.
Yep.
So sometimes the stars align.
Yep. No, that's an awesome tank, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, bud.